It was a cold February evening when a 21-year-old nursing student crashed her car on a quiet stretch of Route 112 in rural New Hampshire. Within minutes, witnesses saw her standing beside her car. She seemed calm, maybe even relieved. But when police arrived, Maura Murray was gone. No footprints, no signs of struggle, just an empty road and a mystery that's haunted America for 2 decades. This is the story of the girl who walked into the woods and never came back. Before she became a name whispered in every true crime forum, Maura Murray was just a college student chasing a dream. Born May 4, 1982 in Hanson, Massachusetts, Maura was the fourth of 5 children in a tight-knit family. She was smart, athletic, and deeply loved. In high school she was a track star, disciplined, determined, and fiercely independent. After graduation she enrolled at the United States Military Academy at West Point, following in her father's footsteps. But after a year she transferred to the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where she studied nursing. Friends describe her as caring but private, someone who could light up a room yet carry her worries quietly. In February 2004, Maura's life seemed complicated. She had a boyfriend, Billy, who lived several states away. Her classes were demanding, and she'd recently been involved in 2 unsettling incidents, one involving a campus theft of credit card information, and another a mysterious breakdown at work where she was found crying uncontrollably. No one knew what was wrong, but in the days before she disappeared, Maura's behavior began to change, and so did her plans. The night of February 9, 2004 was quiet and cold in Haverhill, New Hampshire, one of those small wooded towns where winter seems to stretch forever. Snow blanketed the shoulders of Route 112, a 2-lane road that winds through a landscape of pine and silence. It was just after 7 p.m. when headlights cut through that darkness, belonging to a small black Saturn sedan driven by 21-year-old Maura Murray. She had been on the road for hours, driving north from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, heading toward the mountains. No one knew exactly why. Her father, Fred Murray, later said she loved the White Mountains. They were her escape, her place to breathe. But that night, the drive would become something else entirely. Somewhere along that stretch, Maura's car veered off the road and struck a snowbank near a curve. A loud thud echoed through the cold air, and a neighbor, a woman living in the small home across the street, looked out her window. She saw the Saturn, its front end crumpled, a single figure standing beside it. The woman called 911 at 7:27 p.m. Just a few minutes later, another neighbor, a local bus driver named Butch Atwood, came upon the scene. He stopped his bus, opened the door, and spoke to Maura. She was alone. He described her as calm but shivering slightly, perhaps embarrassed. He offered to call for help, but she told him she already had, that AAA was on the way. That statement would later become one of the first clues and one of the first mysteries. Records would show she never called AAA. In fact, her phone had made no outgoing calls after she left campus. So why tell that story? Was she trying to get rid of him politely? Or was she afraid? Atwood drove off, but not before noticing the car's front-end damage. He lived only a few hundred feet away and called the police once he got home. 7 minutes later, a cruiser arrived. The officer expected a stranded driver, maybe shaken, maybe waiting, but when he pulled up, the road was empty. The car was there, engine cold, airbags deployed, but Maura was gone. Her purse, containing cash, cards, and IDs, was missing. The same with her cell phone. But in the car, investigators found several items that deepened the mystery. A box of Franzia wine, an empty Coke bottle that smelled faintly of alcohol, and a map of the White Mountains folded open on the passenger seat. There was no blood, no footprints leading into the woods, and no signs of a struggle. It was as if she had simply vanished into the cold. Over the next few hours, police searched the area. Neighbors confirmed they hadn't seen anyone walking down the road, and no cars had been spotted picking anyone up. Search dogs were brought in before dawn. The dogs picked up Maura's scent, but only for about 100 yards east of the crash site near an intersection. Then suddenly the scent stopped cold, as if she had climbed into a vehicle or disappeared into thin air. That detail, the abrupt end of her scent trail, would become one of the most contested pieces of evidence in the case. As the days passed, the search expanded. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging scanned the surrounding woods. Dozens of volunteers walked shoulder to shoulder through snowdrifts, calling her name. Nothing. Not a glove, not a shoe, not a single trace of her. Fred Murray arrived on scene within 24 hours. He went door to door, begging neighbors for information. He scoured roadsides himself, flashlight in hand, refusing to give up. "She wouldn't just run," he told reporters. "Something happened to my daughter." But to investigators, the evidence wasn't adding up. Why had Maura left campus so suddenly? The day before, she'd emailed professors that she'd be gone for a week, citing a family death that never happened. She'd withdrawn nearly all the money from her bank account and stopped by a liquor store to buy wine and beer. She'd printed MapQuest directions to places in Vermont and New Hampshire. None of her family or friends had known she planned to travel. Some speculated she'd wanted to disappear. That stress, heartbreak, or fear had pushed her to escape her life. There had been personal struggles in the months before: a small run-in with campus police over a stolen credit card, a late-night car accident while visiting her dad just days earlier. Maybe she just wanted to get away. But if that was true, why did she leave behind everything that would help her survive? Her phone charger, toiletries, and bank cards. And why drive into one of the most desolate stretches of New England in the dead of winter? As days turned into weeks, the case grew colder and theories began to multiply. Some believed she had accepted a ride from a stranger, perhaps someone passing along Route 112 who seemed trustworthy. It was bitterly cold that night. The human instinct would be to seek warmth, safety, a way out of the snow. But in a place so isolated, one wrong choice could have meant catastrophe. Others thought the answer lay closer to the crash site. Locals whispered about suspicious behavior in nearby homes, lights flicking on late that night, strange vehicles, or rumors of a local with a violent past. Police followed leads, searched basements, and conducted interviews, but every path seemed to collapse into dead ends. There was also the theory that Maura had fled into the woods, injured or disoriented. Temperatures dropped into the low 20s that night. The terrain was steep, covered in snow and dense trees. Hypothermia could have set in within an hour. Yet searchers found no evidence of a body, no torn clothing, no sign of disturbance. Each clue raised another question. Each theory led nowhere. Investigators looked into her digital footprint. No credit card charges, no phone activity, no sign she'd crossed the Canadian border or started a new life elsewhere. Nothing. Her existence after that night simply stopped. Her family continued to return to Haverhill year after year, retracing her route, knocking on doors that had long since changed hands. They organized vigils, built online forums, pleaded for tips, and each time the same haunting detail surfaced: 7 minutes. 7 minutes between the time the bus driver left and the police arrived. 7 minutes in which Maura Murray vanished. Was she picked up by someone passing by? Did she run from something we'll never understand? Or did the forest itself hold the answer, silent, vast, and unwilling to give up its secrets? As snow covered the road again that winter, the story of the missing girl on Route 112 became something larger than a local tragedy. It became a riddle that defied logic, a story retold by investigators, journalists, and true crime followers for nearly 2 decades. Every piece of evidence, the wine box, the email, the missing phone, told part of a story, but none revealed what truly mattered: what happened after she stepped away from that car. Somewhere in that frozen night, Maura Murray's path ended, but the search for her never did. Nearly 2 decades have passed since that cold February night, and still, the case of Maura Murray remains as mysterious as the moment she vanished. Over the years, new searches, new witnesses, and new technologies have rekindled hope, only for that hope to flicker and fade again. The story has evolved beyond one missing person. It's become a symbol of America's unsolved, a case that refuses to rest. In the months after her disappearance, the official investigation continued quietly. State police and local authorities combed through every piece of evidence they had: cell phone records, ATM footage, and the contents of her car. The problem was, there wasn't much to work with. The crash left no forensic trail, no fingerprints that mattered, no blood, no sign of another person's involvement. It was a vacuum of clues, and that vacuum drew in speculation like a magnet. Her family, unwilling to let the search go cold, began their own investigations. Fred Murray, Maura's father, traveled to Haverhill again and again. He canvassed nearby towns, filed formal requests for documents, and pressed police for more transparency. He even took to the woods himself, walking the same roads, searching the same ravines. "She's here somewhere," he told reporters. "We just haven't found her yet." Every anniversary brought renewed attention. Journalists, internet sleuths, and amateur detectives poured into the case files. Message boards like web sleuths and Reddit buzzed with theories, some thoughtful, others wildly conspiratorial. The story spread across the internet, transforming Maura's case into one of the most discussed missing persons investigations of the digital age. By 2017, it had become a cultural phenomenon. A six-part documentary series titled The Disappearance of Maura Murray aired on television, reigniting public interest. The show re-examined the timeline minute by minute, reconstructing her final days. It brought forward witnesses who had never spoken publicly and tested rumors that had swirled for years. The series didn't solve the case, but it did something nearly as important. It reminded the world that Maura wasn't just a mystery, she was a person. In that same year, private investigators hired by the Murray family conducted independent searches. Using ground-penetrating radar and cadaver dogs, they focused on properties within a short radius of the crash site, homes that had been standing there since the night Maura disappeared. One particular house drew attention. The dogs alerted on a spot in the basement. The readings from the radar hinted at something beneath the concrete, an irregular void. The property owners denied any involvement, but the discovery sparked headlines across national media. For a moment it felt like the truth might finally be within reach. But after months of legal hurdles, investigators gained permission to dig. What they found wasn't a body. It wasn't evidence. Just soil, concrete, and the crushing weight of another false dawn. That's how it's been, time and again. Leads rise and dissolve like breath in winter air. In 2019, another round of searches took place, this time led by state police and the FBI. They re-examined previously dismissed tips, tested new DNA analysis methods, and revisited the possibility of foul play, yet no physical trace of Maura emerged. Her family refused to let that be the end. Julie Murray, Maura's older sister, took up the public fight. She organized awareness campaigns, launched a podcast, and spoke directly to the growing online audience. "If someone knows something," she said in one interview, "just come forward. 20 years is too long to stay silent." The case has since become a strange paradox, famous but unsolved. Everyone seems to know about it, yet no one truly knows what happened. Theories continue to evolve. Some still believe she ran away voluntarily, that the pressures of her life combined with emotional turmoil drove her to start over somewhere new. Supporters of that theory point to her search history, information about renting cabins, bus schedules, and the White Mountains. But after 20 years without a single verified sighting, it feels increasingly unlikely that she built a new life in secrecy. Others cling to the idea of foul play, that she was picked up, abducted, or harmed by someone she met along the way. The lack of evidence could point to someone who knew the terrain well, someone who could move through those woods without leaving a trace. But again, it's conjecture. There's no smoking gun, no name, no proof. Then there's the wilderness theory. The idea that she left the car, wandered into the forest, and perished where no one could find her. It's a haunting thought, but one that search teams struggle to accept. Hundreds of professionals and volunteers swept that area with dogs, helicopters, and thermal imaging. Even in snow, some sign should have been found. The woods, they say, are vast but not infinite. And yet, for all the searches, for all the questions, the result remains the same. Nothing. Not one item of clothing. Not a single confirmed piece of evidence to say where Maura went. As technology advances, hope occasionally stirs. DNA databases have solved dozens of cold cases across the country. The identification of the boy in the box in 2022, a mystery once thought unsolvable, reminded the Murray family that science can sometimes reach where humans cannot. In 2021, they provided fresh DNA samples to investigators, hoping that one day, if remains are ever discovered, there will be no doubt. Still, 20 years later, the official stance is unchanged. The case of Maura Murray is open but cold. The New Hampshire State Police have reiterated their commitment, stating they review new leads and evidence as they arise. But for the Murray family, the waiting is unbearable. They live between two impossible realities: that Maura might still be out there, or that she may never be found. To this day, people drive down Route 112, slowing near the curve where her Saturn once rested. Some leave flowers, others record videos for online sleuth channels. The spot is ordinary, just a bend in a country road, but it carries an almost sacred weight. It's the place where time stopped for one young woman, and in some strange way for everyone who's followed her story. If you visit on a quiet winter night, you can hear the hum of the wind through the trees, the faint rush of the Ammonoosuc River in the distance. It's beautiful, and it's eerie. Locals say it feels different there, heavier somehow, as if the earth itself remembers something no one else can. Every few years, a new person takes up the search. A journalist, a detective, a curious stranger. They all start with the same hope, to find what everyone else has missed. But the woods are patient. They keep their secrets well. And so, the mystery endures. The girl who vanished on Route 112 remains frozen in time, her face preserved in posters, documentaries, and the hearts of those who refuse to forget. She has become part of something larger, an enduring reminder that even in an age of constant connection, someone can still disappear without a trace. The case of Maura Murray isn't just a story about a missing person. It's about persistence, about the questions that echo when answers never come. It's about how love refuses to fade even when all that's left is silence. Because in that silence her family still listens, waiting for the day when the woods finally speak. 2 decades have passed since the night Maura Murray vanished, and still there is no resolution, only echoes. For her family, those echoes are constant. They live in every unanswered call, every unopened file, every anniversary that passes with the same question hanging in the air: what happened to Maura? Over the years, her story has become part of something larger, a reflection of the way certain mysteries take hold of us and never let go. It's a story of loss, but also of obsession, of the human need to understand the unknowable. When you trace the path of her final hours, you start to feel the tension between reason and imagination. There are the facts, the car, the timing, the missing footprints, and then there is everything beyond them: fear, exhaustion, hope, shame. We can analyze her last moves endlessly, but the truth is that no one can fully know what was in Maura's heart when she stepped out of that car. Was she terrified? Was she desperate? Or was she just lost, in more ways than one? Her disappearance has drawn comparisons to other haunting cases, the kind that seem to defy logic. Young, bright women who vanish into the quiet corners of the world, leaving families who never stop searching. In that way, Maura's case stands as a symbol, not only of mystery but of endurance. A father's endurance, a sister's endurance, and the endurance of a story that refuses to fade. Fred Murray, her father, has never stopped searching. Year after year, he returns to that stretch of Route 112, standing in the cold, staring into the woods that may or may not hold the answers he's been seeking since 2004. He's grown older, but the conviction in his voice hasn't changed. She didn't just vanish, he once said. Somebody knows something. It's a sentence that carries both accusation and hope. Someone knows something. And maybe that's what keeps this case alive. The belief that the truth is out there, that it's not lost, just hidden. That one day one person will come forward, or one new technology will uncover what human eyes missed. For Julie Murray, Maura's older sister, the fight is now personal and public. She's become the voice of her sister's story, leading awareness campaigns, giving interviews, and advocating for cold case reform. Julie has often spoken about the emotional toll of living in a case that has been so heavily dissected online. Every theory, every rumor, every stranger's opinion becomes a wave she has to stand against. But she continues anyway because the alternative, silence, would mean letting Maura fade from memory. There's something deeply human about that struggle. In every missing person's case, there are 2 disappearances: the physical one and the fading one that happens when people stop talking about it. The Justice Vault tells stories like Maura's because they remind us that behind the headlines, behind the theories, there's always a family waiting for answers that may never come. The longer a case stays unsolved, the more it transforms. It stops being just an investigation and becomes a mirror for everyone who encounters it. People see in it their own fears of loss, of not knowing, of realizing how fragile our ordinary lives really are. We like to think the world is predictable, that bad things happen for clear reasons, in clear patterns. But stories like Maura's remind us how easily that illusion can crumble. There's a particular kind of silence that comes with cases like this, a silence that lives not in the absence of noise but in the absence of truth. Every new search that ends without answers deepens it. Every theory that falls apart adds another layer, and yet through all of it the Murray family continues to speak her name. When you look back on everything, the drive, the crash, the impossible 7 minutes, you can feel the weight of chance. How many small choices and moments led to that point? How many coincidences aligned? If one thing had gone differently, she might have made it home. She might have called someone. She might have been found. But history isn't built on what-ifs. It's built on what remains. And what remains is a mystery that has endured longer than most. For the people who follow this case, Investigators, journalists, true crime listeners, there's a shared understanding that some stories don't end with closure. They end with acceptance. Acceptance that not all answers are reachable. Acceptance that sometimes the only thing left to do is to remember. In a way, Maura's story is about memory, about the power of remembering someone even when the world moves on. That's what her family has done. That's what the online communities have done, for better or worse. And that's what you, as a viewer, are doing now, keeping her story alive. If you stand on Route 112 today, you might not see anything remarkable. It's just a bend in a winter road. But if you listen closely, to the wind through the trees, to the hum of distant traffic, you might feel something. Not supernatural, not eerie but heavy. The kind of weight that comes from a story unfinished. Every time snow falls there, it covers the same ground where searchers once stood shoulder to shoulder, hoping to bring a daughter home. Every thaw reveals the same earth that's held its secrets for 20 years. And maybe that's what makes this story so haunting. Not the mystery itself, but what it represents: the endless reach of a family's love, the human need for answers, and the reminder that even when a trail goes cold, hope never really dies. Fred Murray once said that he visits that road not because he expects to find Maura, but because it sets the only place that still feels connected to her. I stand there, he said, and I talk to her, because wherever she is, she deserves to hear that we haven't stopped. That's the quiet truth behind this entire case. Persistence. A father's persistence. A sister's persistence. A community's persistence to believe that the lost can still be found. And maybe in the end, that's what justice looks like in a story like this. Not a courtroom, not a confession, but the refusal to forget. For 20 years, the woods of New Hampshire have kept their silence. But the people who loved Maura Murray never have. They keep speaking, keep searching, keep hoping that someday the echoes of that cold night will finally return an answer. Because until they do, Maura's story isn't over. It's still unfolding, one whisper, one memory, one prayer at a time. And maybe when that day finally comes, when the truth steps out from the shadows of those trees, the world will remember that sometimes the most powerful form of justice isn't punishment, it's peace. If you have stayed with us until now, thank you. This story, Maura Murray's story, is more than just a mystery. It's a reminder that every headline, every case file, every online debate is built on a real human life. A daughter, a sister, a friend who laughed, dreamed, and deserved to grow old. As the years pass, new names and stories capture the world's attention. But for the people who knew Maura, time hasn't moved at all. Every February, the road where she vanished fills with memories of who she was and who she should have become. That's why we tell these stories. Not to sensationalize them, but to keep their voices alive. Because when a story fades, so does the search for truth. And for the families left behind, silence is the cruelest thing of all. Here at the Justice Vault, we believe every mystery deserves a voice. Every victim deserves to be remembered not for the darkness of what happened, but for the light of who they were. So now, we want to hear from you. What do you think happened that night on Route 112? Was Maura trying to escape something or someone? Or did she meet with tragedy on a lonely road that never gave up its secrets? Share your theories in the comments below, but above all, share them with empathy. Because behind every unsolved case is a family still waiting for answers. And every view, every share, every moment spent remembering helps keep that search alive. If you found this story compelling, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the Justice Vault, and turn on notifications. It's a simple action that helps us continue to bring you deeply researched, respectful, and emotionally honest true crime documentaries. We tell these stories not just to ask what happened, but to ask why it still matters. Because even when the trail runs cold, the pursuit of truth must never stop. Maura's story is unfinished, and until it finds its ending, we'll keep it alive. I'm your host, and this has been the Justice Vault. Thank you for watching, and for remembering Maura Murray.